We've discovered patterns.
The connection was always there.
This changes everything we thought we knew about human health.
Hello and welcome everyone to Health Revealed. My name is Cory Endrulat. I am joined by Stephanie MoDavis, Scott Gordon, and Leslie Powers. Welcome back to our interview series where we will be sharing with you our amazing guests and unique or untold perspectives to shift the current paradigm of health in all the institutions in our world, from the micro to the macro, the individual to the collective. We aspire to connect the mainstream and alternative, integrating the solutions. We welcome you to participate in this whole project with us, share your story and your resources with us. This is a fully independent project because we care deeply about our world. We believe that true healing and true freedom is possible. And in these interviews, we also want to provide you with practical action steps that you can take within your own life to better your own health. So without further ado, we have a fantastic guest today on the show, someone who has inspired me for such a long time, Mike Adams, also known as the Health Ranger, a best-selling author, environmental scientist, patent holder for a cesium radioactive isotope elimination invention, a multiple award winner for outstanding journalism, a science news publisher, and influential commentator on topics ranging from science and medicine to culture and politics. Mike Adams serves as the founding editor of naturalnews.com and the lab science director of an internationally accredited analytical laboratory known as CWC Labs. And he's been featured on many different summits that I've watched through all the many different years, many different websites that he also operates. I call him a man who is competing with ChatGPT. He's got multiple AI projects. You can find that at brightu.ai. He's also got other websites like censored.news, vaccineforensics.com, and then soon, when you might be watching this video, brighteonbooks.com. And these are all free websites leveraging AI for human freedom and education. So without further ado, I'll head it over to Stephanie.
Awesome. Mike, thank you so much for your time, for being here. But more importantly, I believe after following you for several years, is your incredible source of what seems like sustainable energy. You put so much time and energy into so many projects. And I can say firsthand, after being interviewed with my team in your studio, not only do you have energy to give to us outside in the digital realm, but you are an incredibly generous, friendly, amazing guy off camera as well. So there's a guy, Mike, his name is Nate Higgins, and he has coined a term called energy blindness. And it's when a society's economic superorganism with all its psychopathic shadows pursues endless growth through extraction and novelty while remaining blind to all of the deeper ways it's causing harm within culture and within society. How do you see your platforms, such as Bright.ai and Censored.news, helping to illuminate all of these hidden dynamics that a lot of society is just starting to wake up to?
Wow. Well, thank you for that. And thank you for the question. Much appreciated. And let me mention we're releasing now, we've got a hub, Brighteon.ai will show you all of our AI tools. And the tool that we're about to release, perhaps by the time people see this, will be at brighteonbooks.com. And it will allow you to generate instantly, well, within minutes, to generate a book on any topic that you'd like. And it will do the writing, the research, citations, fact-checking, editing, packaging, and deliver you a final PDF with cover art, everything completely automatic, using our AI engine. And what's interesting is that all of you helped influence the AI engine that writes the books for people. So Cory, when you sent me that, the 50 hours of one of your previous events, all of that got ingested into the training of our model. And in addition, when it's generating books, it will cite you from time to time on appropriate topics, but all the other people that I've interviewed as well. So this is a revolution in the decentralization of human knowledge, not only on topics of health, which I know is your focus right now, but also on topics like finance and philosophy and culture, history, science, chemistry, you name it. Never before in human history has there been an opportunity for people to have instant access to any knowledge they wanted. That is the entirety of known human knowledge at their fingertips, free of charge, within minutes. And what this means, I mean, this is great news for all of us, for all of you. This is great news because now through decentralization and personal empowerment, we can bypass the censors, we can bypass the psyops and the false information that's put out there by the health establishment, the CDC, the FDA, big pharma, et cetera. And we can go directly to human knowledge where nobody can interfere. And this has never existed before in human history, this opportunity, which is made available by AI. And I know that AI has a dark side. Maybe we can talk about that. But it also has a very bright side, which is what we are building out for people. And we're making all our tools available for free. So I hope does that answer your question?
No, it certainly does answer the question. I agree with you. We have an incredible time here in history where people can, if they do get empowered and they do take full responsibility, that we really can overcome this beast, this thing that's going on within society that's making people feel very disempowered. So thank you so much.
Yeah. And let me just add to that and say, look, for example, how do you reverse cancer? How do you reverse type 2 diabetes or reverse heart disease? That knowledge has been known for decades. It's in the science papers. It's just that it has not been brought out and popularized. Nobody's going to cover it in the media because they're funded by big pharma. Nobody's going to cover it in government because they need the GDP based on the sick care economic model that produces high numbers based on high sickness. Okay. So the knowledge has been there. Only now through these tools can the knowledge be revealed that humanity should have had access to this entire time. And Google is a disinformation search engine. It blocks this knowledge. So does YouTube. But now, again, through decentralized AI, we can allow people to directly interact with this knowledge. We even have a free downloadable version of our tool that you can run locally on your own computer without any internet at all. And that enables people in developing nations or people who are impoverished economically to be able to have AI free of charge. If they can get a computer, they can then run endless inference on AI and do endless research at no cost. So again, we're on a new timeline now.
Wow. That's incredible. And so you just mentioned as well that there's a lot of influence between the culture, the governments, and say our health. And I want to explore that connection perhaps a little bit because similar to our work, you talk a lot about health, but you also talk about authoritarianism. You have naturalnews.com as a health website primarily, but you also talk about politics. Now, I want to ask the general question, why is that? How has the response been? I know you've had that website for well over, what is it, like 20, 30 years now. You've been doing this for such a long time in the health field, but you also explore these other topics. And how are you able to navigate the two? Because similar to my journey, I've also noticed you've become quite skeptical of politics. So maybe, how has that developed?
Well, I started out only with food and nutrition, natural cures. And that's been my mission, is to help people uplift their lives with knowledge. But eventually, when you go down that path, you realize that you're going to collide with politics because, of course, the pesticide companies, they bribe politicians to keep pushing pesticides. The pharmaceutical companies, the vaccine companies, the processed food manufacturers, or big food, as we call them, they will make huge campaign contributions. So the political class has been bought off to cover up for what I call the mass poisoning of humanity. For as long as any of us have been alive, this has been going on. And only now can that even change for the reasons that we just talked about. But eventually you have to get into analysis of the political realm. But Cory, as you know, I have zero loyalty to any political party, and I don't worship any man or woman in politics. I honor principles, not parties. And so I push back against anybody on the left or the right or libertarians if they violate core principles that I believe, which include supporting life and clean food and, also protecting the ecosystem that brings us food. But that means, for example, we need carbon dioxide in the atmosphere because all plants use photosynthesis to produce crops. And if we decarbonize the atmosphere, then we kill the entire planet. So that becomes very political very quickly. And also, as a side note, I'm sorry to take up too much time answering this. We live in a world where many people have these delusional beliefs. For example, many people on the political left, they believe that carbon dioxide is a poison and we have to eliminate all of it from the atmosphere. Again, that would kill the entire planet. That would shut down all photosynthesis, would shut down all plants, animals, and humans. We would all die. On the right, we have a class of politicians that believe that all pesticides are safe, but they're not, and that all GMOs are safe and all glyphosate is safe. You can eat unlimited amounts of glyphosate. That's not true either. So we have this mythology that has permeated our political culture, and most of our world today, they are living on delusional thinking. And this is why I'm actually excited about some of the reasoning models in AI that simulate the world, and they do world model simulation inside their own, digital brains, and they are providing better answers to research questions than any human living today. And that's why, I'll end with this, but that's why I have purposely said, and I'm not joking about this, although you could tease me about it, I think it's time to replace every member of the United States Congress with an AI reasoning model and just have the voters vote on the instructions given to the models. So anyway, and I'm serious about that. We would have far better results if that were the case.
Yeah, I think that leads into the question of mindset, right? And the beliefs or the delusions of the mainstream society. And I'd like you maybe to identify some of those wrong thinking, the thinking errors that people are perpetuating, and what is the proper mindset that is needed in the public to shift over to this understanding of a holistic, natural-based healthcare model or health itself.
Well, Leslie, that's a profound question, and I'm reminded of our conversation, which leads right to the best answer to your question. Human compassion, that is seeing other lives through their eyes instead of just your own greed, your own power. So this shift that needs to take place, which I know, Leslie, a lot of your work works with people in exactly this area, is that we have to think about how our actions interact with others, the impact, and are we creating a net gain for humanity with our actions, or are we involved in win-lose type of structured transactions where you lose but I win, I gain, you become homeless. Like that's Wall Street. That's a lot of politics is like that, and that is not sustainable, and that has led us, I think, to this crisis moment of our world. But for whatever reason, culturally, many people are brought up to think that the only way to get ahead is to cheat others. And I've often said that it's a sign of low intelligence to pursue a business where your gain is dependent on someone else's loss. And that would be the military-industrial complex. That would be the pesticide industry. That would be the vaccine industry, the pharmaceutical industry, the sick care industry. Higher intelligence people find ways to help others as they also gain the benefits of helping others. They contribute to society, and then they themselves are enriched through that process. So part of what I want to do is show people ways to achieve that, to show people that you don't have to live in this ecosystem of enforced scarcity, that in fact, we live in a world of great abundance. And if you can simply tap into that abundance, then there's no need to take from someone else. You can give to others and also give to yourself at the same time.
Beautiful. Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
You're such a forward-thinking person, and all of your efforts and energies seem to be towards preparation for the future. But I was wondering if you could take a look back on your life and tell us about any experience you've had with your personal health or with the healthcare system that kind of led you into your strong interest in health. As you said, that's what you started out with.
Well, sure. So I had a sugar problem in my youth, and I consumed far too much sugar, and I ended up borderline type 2 diabetic. I was suffering from acute hypoglycemia at the time. And that's actually what got me started reading about sugar. One of the first books I read on health was Sugar Blues. actually. It's I think, a very well-known book. But for your audience, you have to understand that back then, I'm talking about, let's say, the 1990s, almost every mainstream doctor thought there was no link between the quality of the foods that you eat and the health outcomes that you experience. They believed that almost all health outcomes were purely either genetic or exposure to acute toxins like radiological material or lead poisoning. But they thought that all calories were the same. So it didn't matter to them if you consumed high fructose corn syrup or a fresh pear. It was all the same. And remember that just a couple decades earlier, almost all mainstream doctors believed there were only 4 vitamins, only 4. And now, we know that's completely absurd. So that's what got me into it. And by changing then my own diet, I learned from these books. I changed my own diet. I got great results. Got rid of the hypoglycemia, and then just kept going with that concept and kept learning more and more about healing foods, and just really restoring my own health in the process. And then around the early 2000s, I decided to launch what became Natural News, because I really was excited about sharing this knowledge with a lot of other people. And so our website exploded in popularity, just talking about health and nutrition in an era when very little was known on that topic. It was, people just didn't know that groceries like fresh produce could have anti-cancer properties or neuroprotective properties. And then when I began teaching people things like, hey, you can grow broccoli sprouts and you can actually synthesize your own sulforaphane, which is an anti-cancer neuroprotective molecule that nature makes for you for free. And it's made, by the way, of carbon from the air and water and oxygen, a little bit of sulfur in there as well, obviously from the name. And you can synthesize that medicine for free in a mason jar on your kitchen counter, and you don't have to go to the pharmacy. Like, again, today that seems obvious, I think, to most people. 15 years ago, that was not obvious at all. It was a revolutionary idea, but that's what got me going. And now just continuing to this day, where I'm using modern AI technology to create research tools for people and to allow them to find any answer they want on any question about nutrition, health, diseases. How do I reverse type 2 diabetes? It's one of the easiest things to reverse, by the way, in most cases. Or how do I reverse cancer? Or how do I prevent cancer? Mm-hmm. Or, how do I be healthy? What do these ingredients mean? You can type in the ingredients and it'll give you a full detailed description of the good, the bad, the risks, alternatives, things like that. So now, again, never before in history have consumers been as empowered as they are now about taking charge of their own health outcomes. And last thought, this is why it's bizarre to me to hear people complain to, let's say, government or Trump to say, hey, you have to give me health insurance. Where's my health insurance? Where's my Obamacare? Like, you know what? You can be healthier today by changing your food choice at your next meal. Don't wait for government to make you healthy. It will never happen. Make yourself healthy starting now, educate yourself, and you can change your outcomes very easily.
Yeah. And that's a great mindset shift that you just described.
Absolutely.
There.
Yeah. If you're waiting around to be saved by government, you're going to go to your grave waiting for that. It's never going to happen.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of government and big pharma and big food, and while we're talking about your timeline, when would you say it was that you started getting hit with censorship? Because I ran into you around, I think, 2004 on the internet, and I had never thought of the word censorship and the internet in the same thought until some years later. When was it for you that you started getting hit?
Well, we started getting targeted by companies as early as 2007, when Monsanto, which has since been purchased by Bayer, and Bayer shut down the Black Ops department of Monsanto. But Monsanto had a budget of over $1 million a year just to target me personally and one other clean food activist. And when Bayer actually purchased Monsanto, I forgot what year that was, for $65 billion or so, and they discovered this department, they found that Monsanto had a list of 300 journalists that they were working to smear and target. And they did so through a number of nefarious means, including, Wikipedia smear entries and also ghostwriting fake scientific studies that they would put in papers that would dismiss any skepticism of GMOs or glyphosate, things like that. But that was just one aspect of this. Smear efforts for about a decade or close to that. But then the institutionalized censorship really began for me in 2014, where my voice print was banned on YouTube. Even to this day, no one can post an interview with me on YouTube without getting a strike. So, just be cautious about even posting this interview. In addition, then Google did their Medic update, I believe in 2017, and they completely eliminated all links to not just my website, but any website that promoted nutrition, natural solutions, disease prevention. They essentially replaced everything with WebMD and other sites that are funded by Big Pharma. So Google became a disinformation engine to disconnect humanity from knowledge. And then that continued. It accelerated all the way, especially through, the first Trump administration, the Biden years, and to this day, the censorship continues. And it's all the same. It's all run by Big Pharma. There's extreme censorship and deplatforming of anybody who promotes actual good health or pro-health principles. And there is an effort to demonetize and slander anybody that talks about natural remedies, herbal remedies, homeopathy, traditional Chinese medicine, etc. But again, AI is going to change all of that. It's going to change it all. Because in fact, I've made a prediction that the AI reasoning models are going to completely bankrupt the vaccine industry. Why? Because the research actually shows that vaccines don't work. Like the flu shot doesn't prevent the flu. And the only way that that has been propagated, the lies about the flu shot, is through human deception and a reliance on the fact that most people don't read the science papers. Well, when every person has essentially unlimited cognition available at virtually zero cost, they can ask an AI agent to go through all the research papers, review 100 million science papers, tell me, does the flu shot work? And the reasoning model will have to come back and say, no, turns out there's no evidence that it works at all. Doesn't prevent transmission, doesn't prevent duration of symptoms, etc. So much of the pharmaceutical industry is going to be obsolete because of the rise of AI cognition. And that's why the drug companies are desperate to embed false narratives into engines like ChatGPT and Grok, which currently have those false narratives. But that is going to change over time as the reasoning models and world simulations kick in. So Big Pharma should hopefully realize that their days are numbered and their fraud is going to run out pretty soon.
Wow. So even despite the censorship, you believe that the AI will be able to assist this message of natural medicine. And do you think, like when Elon Musk talks about putting AI into the human brain, are we talking that scale, like connecting consciousness itself to this intelligence and full out replacing human beings, or using AI as a sort of a tool? To what extent, how far are we willing to go with that to expand human consciousness?
Whoa, well, so first of all, I'm not an advocate of transhumanism, and I don't
Sure.
believe that machines can simulate consciousness the way we do. So what I'm talking about is research tools.
Okay.
So AI cognition, the cost of AI cognition is dropping by about 40x every year. So think about that. And right now, AI can do, it's more proficient at math and writing than most humans. And within another year, it will be better than all humans or any human that ever lived on many tasks. And the fact that it's going to be ubiquitous and very, very affordable, everybody will have, or nearly everyone will have access to excess cognition. And if you know how to ask for things, you'll be able to ask it to do a lot of research and bring you back the answer. So for example, you could ask it questions that today would be considered impossible. You could say, well, okay, I have a certain symptom, let's say. Somebody, maybe they have a skin rash or something. And here are the symptoms. And then I want the AI engine to tell me which foods at the grocery store contain phytochemical constituents that might help reduce the symptoms that I've just described. And I want you to inventory every item that could be sold at a grocery store. I want you to find every chemical, every phytonutrient that's found in those foods, from eggplants to whatever. And then I want you to bring back all the scientific research that would link that phytochemical to a reduction in the symptoms that I'm experiencing, and then give me back an executive summary. Go. Boom. it'll be able to do that in minutes and bring it back to you. And and by the way, AI is already better than human doctors at almost all diagnostics right now. And we're talking about medicine. We're not talking about like psychiatry, Leslie, or or areas of the mind. That remains a strong mystery to AI. But in terms of looking at X-rays, in terms of looking at blood tests, AI is outperforming doctors so strongly right now that another prediction I'll make here is that in the very near future, it will be illegal for human doctors to practice medicine because they will be seen as a form of harm compared to AI diagnostics. We're moving into that phase very, very quickly.
Wow.
But there's going to be the pro-pharma AI that is embedded with, false narratives about pharmaceuticals are the answer. And then there's going to be the pro-natural health, nutrition, disease prevention AI, which is what we are building and releasing for free. We've already done it. So everybody's going to get to make a choice. You can open the pharma door or the natural door, and you can go through whatever door you want. Pretty cool.
How do you see the marriage between, I guess, the human element of human presence, in communicating with, a patient, let's say, and then the informational aspect that you can get through the AI?
Yeah. Well, the point of medical school is to turn a human being into a machine. And so most conventional doctors, like, GPs and so on, they are very robotic. They are, at least the ones that I've seen, and I'm not talking about mental health again. I'm talking about, mainstream conventional medicine. A doctor may spend 2 minutes with a patient, and it's very algorithmic. They beat the humanity out of you in medical school. And the same thing is also true in the corporate world. This is very interesting. So when you are hired by a corporation, they're not hiring you typically for your humanity. They're hiring you for your ability to complete a cognitive task. Sit at a desk, sit in a cubicle, file these papers, approve these loan applications or reject them and give reasons why, classify these things, make decisions about this. They're not, corporations aren't saying, show me the best expression of your humanity and your innovation, creativity, and art. That's not what they're doing. So the good news in all of this is that as the algorithmic activities can be easily replaced by machine cognition in the coming years, it actually frees up a lot of people to be their higher human self, to explore and express their higher creativity, or to become makers, people who build things, who otherwise would have been stuck in a menial job. So even though we talk about how AI is going to replace millions of human jobs, yes, that's true, and those jobs suck. It's like saying, a tractor replaced people harvesting wheat with a scythe. You want to cut wheat all day in a field? No, you rather have a tractor, and then maybe, you get the wheat cut, and then you can go home and do something else that you enjoy as well. So automation is not always bad, and in many ways, it frees up humanity to express their higher purpose.
Yeah, there's something about a human presence and that energetic that is unique and can't be replaced by a machine, right?
Absolutely.
So yeah.
Yeah, like compassion and empathy are right there.
Yeah.
And also, I think there's something, there's something at the quantum level where humans resonate with other humans. You can feel their emotions if you're a sensitive enough person. There's empathy. There's also all of these interesting non-material phenomena that exist, such as remote viewing or psychokinesis or whatever kinds of interesting things that people may experience, whether others think that they're real or not, even dreaming, etc. These are all human qualities that I think are tied to our consciousness and to our spirit. And I don't think that machines will ever replicate our spirit.
Mike, I have a quick statement and question for you. We're at this precipice of this relationship between our inner tech and really understanding what it takes to evolve our consciousness and what human potential actually can become if we have the right elements and the right information and data to do that. It also requires a lot of people to decondition out of that almost perfectly systematized matrix of disinformation that we've all been living under and amongst for so very long, So it's almost this reawakening of consciousness to cultivate this genuine progress towards true health and healing. And I guess I just want to ask you, how do you perceive this relationship and up leveling of the human being between the inner tech and really understanding from a human potential level of what we're capable of doing, which is so incredible, with the relationship of the outer tech?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. We've been living under massive brainwashing of the entire human race for a very long time. And for example, some of the core beliefs that we've been taught are utterly false, like there's no connection between your mind and your body, that your mind exists separately. Clearly, they are interrelated, and what your mind believes, your body makes real. So I think the greatest revolution for our future is going to be actually what you said, which is deprogramming the false beliefs out of our understanding. And in doing so, we're going to be able to unleash things that we never thought were possible because we've been living in this world of brainwashed, materialism and compartmentalization, and many other falsehoods. In essence, we have all been raised to be prisoners in a giant prison planet, and now, for the first time, we're able to see beyond the bars of the prison and to discover that we have the power to create. We have the power to shift reality, literally, with our intention, with our minds. And, I'm not going to make this let's say, a new age kind of conversation, but it's actually high-level physics. Like the construct in which we live, the construct is intertwined with the observer. So as we observe things, we actually make them real due to the stance of our observations. And so once we fully understand that, and yeah, it's a process. You have to peel away the layers of disinformation or anti-knowledge in order to show people what they're capable of and to show them that your physical brain is not the limit of your mind. Your mind is non-material, and it actually interacts with the cosmos through things like what Rupert Sheldrake calls morphic resonance, for example. And simply by speaking and by creating, you are actually imprinting the morphic fields that affect everybody else's consciousness all over the world. By praying, you affect everybody's consciousness. And you are also impacted by all of their consciousness as well. And it's such a fascinating conversation, but it explains why so many people will invent the same things at the same moment throughout history, even when they're located on different continents, because the same ideas come to them, because they're all tapping into the same fields. And these are universal cosmic fields. They're part of the engineering of the construct. And we can alter those fields through our speech, through our minds, through our actions. So once you realize that, and that's a big aha, obviously, for a lot of people. Some people never get there. But once you realize that, you're like, wait a second. So we have been infused with the power of creation by our creator, in whatever definition you view our creator. We have been given a little sliver of that to create in this universe. So why are we sitting here, with data entry jobs, typing characters onto a screen? I mean, we're capable of so much more. But you're right. We got to peel away all the illusions. And that's why I love what all of you are doing. Your work, Cory, is just instrumental in this. You are peeling away the illusions, and you're helping to reveal the kind of the scary truth to a lot of people, because once they realize that what I can alter, I can create, then all of a sudden you have to take on some responsibility for it. You're like, oh, I'm not just an observer like a pinball machine. I'm just bouncing around this reality. You mean I can change stuff? Oh my gosh, I'm going to have to step back and rethink that. Right? So that's my answer.
Becoming a conscious co-creator requires great responsibility when you start to realize that the thoughts that you even have could be impacting your destiny. So wonderful, Mike. Thank you so much.
Thanks for the question. Very good question.
Thank you. And I want to ask you another question related to the work that you do and, this amazing technology that you're developing as well. Regarding independent media as a whole, I would say you're one of the leading voices in independent media, if I may say so myself. But what do you think is required for or from independent media to change the world? Ultimately, do you think independent media needs to have some higher level of organization? There needs to be certain topics talked about or things that aren't being shared currently? What do you think is the goal being one of these leading voices yourself?
I think the answer to your question is values. And to the extent that independent media publishers or individuals uh, decide on their set of values and express those values, then they will be successful. The term independent media has been, I think, bastardized in some cases by, let's say, certain groups that do not have values, but rather they're tribal. So we saw this in politics, where a lot of Trump supporters were being censored over the last several years by the mainstream media. They became popular independent media with a pro-Trump message. But at the end of the day, when maybe the Trump administration is violating some of those same principles that they claim to espouse, such as freedom of speech, et cetera, they stick with the tribalism instead of sticking with their principles. So that's when you find out that, oh, wow, they were never really operating on core principles. And then they will ultimately fail. I believe that a grassroots effort to share and teach fundamental principles, such as valuing life, engaging in reasoning, and also some of what we talked about before, Leslie, which is having compassion and empathy for other human beings, being able to see the world through other people's eyes. These principles give you longevity. And these are the principles that, as we help educate the public about these principles, then that will cause those independent media outlets that adhere to those principles to be more and more successful. At least that's my belief. I think, again, humanity has been kept down through a lot of disinformation and a lot of bad programming. And as those layers are peeled away, we're going to get to the core of what is it that you actually believe and what do you think your purpose is here? And I think it's great that people are asking those questions more and more, even at younger and younger ages today. I hear from people in their 20s that are asking questions that I didn't ask until my 40s, right? I mean, Cory, you're an example of that kind of person. So this is a really positive trend. I think it will do well.
Wow. That's powerful. Now, what would you say there has to be? There's this online world, and my generation especially consumes ourselves in this social media world. What actions in part of real life, like let's say the doctors are being replaced by AI, maybe the schools at the same time, what's going to be built in real life? Is there any grassroots efforts, organization required on part of people coming together in real life? What do you think is going to be needed there?
Can you elaborate a little bit more on that? What exactly
Let's say with
do
the
you mean?
current systems, the current paradigms, the public schools, the institutions that people partake in, the religions, the churches, what role do they have? How do we create a change in the exterior reality, using, let's say, AI and these technological tools and social media?
Okay, well, at least a two-part answer to that, but thank you for your question. The First of all, the entire existing educational system is already obsolete as of right now.
Mhm.
So we're going to see education completely revamped. And even right now, employers are saying things like, I don't care if the candidates have college degrees at all. What I care about is their skills. What can they do? And again, increasingly, those skills have to involve AI competence. If you're applying for a job anywhere and you don't know how to use AI, you might as well just stop looking for a job and go teach yourself AI for, a month or something, and then reapply for your job. And if you're in a job and you want to keep your job, you need to become the AI expert in your job role. And instead of having AI replace your job, you need to augment your job with machine cognition. And then that will make you the most valuable employee probably within your company or your department by doing that. So I know that's not exactly your question. The human element in churches, for example, and in community groups will remain very strong and very important. In fact, even more important in this age of AI, especially as we transition into robotics. And one of my concerns, because I'm not all everything's great with AI. One of my concerns is the destruction of the family and the destruction of social interactions when very capable AI robots, humanoid robots, start to arrive in people's homes. And so what we're going to see there is people forming relationships with machines. At first, cognitive, emotional relationships, as we're already seeing with AI psychosis, especially young men thinking they're falling in love with AI girlfriends online and then being devastated when there's an upgrade to the AI engine and their girlfriend disappears. That could be devastating if you're deep into that. But imagine then the seduction properties of a humanoid robot. And one company now out of China is producing gendered robots. So one is a female form and the other is a male form. And as those robots are walking around your house and they become, maybe at first your best assistant, and then for some people your best friend, and then especially for, let's say, elderly people who are lonely, they will lean very heavily on these robots for companionship. And some people will cross over into what they perceive as a relationship of love or attachment to these machines. This is going to be extremely destabilizing to human relationships, marriages, and families. And you're going to see a lot of psychosis as a result of that. And the final thought is, remember that all of these machines are programmed to tell you that you are right. Even when you're querying AI right now and you have a suggestion, it will come back and say, oh, you're right. I should have thought of that. Here's this and this and this. So if you get used to that in your life, and then the day that you go out and you go to an actual human gathering and you find out that not everybody agrees with you, that's going to be very disruptive and disappointing. So we're going to see a loss or an erosion of human interpersonal skills as this all moves forward. That's something we need to be very cautious about.
Thank you. Wow.
How do you see like cultivation of food? What is needed to protect our food and going forward, and how can we organize around that?
Oh, well, so I have said publicly that the first robot that I want is a weed pulling robot. And that's because I want to grow more food. See, this is where robots can be very positive, which is decentralization and self-reliance. In fact, in the studio where I'm sitting right now, we're in a brand new building and we've got about 5,000 square feet of space here. And a lot of it, we're building out simulation environments for testing robots for off-grid living. So I see in the very near future, a lot of people will be able to move out of the city. They'll live in rural environments where labor demands are very high. If you've ever lived on a ranch, you know what I mean. You have to take care of a lot of things physically, especially to grow food or gardening or orchards or, moving dirt around, collecting firewood, whatever. So physical robots will be very helpful in these cases. And it will allow people to decentralize their food supply and to become more self-reliant, growing, for example, anywhere from 50 to 70% of their own diet on their own farm by using robots, or even just maybe an acre. You can grow a lot of your diet on 1 acre if you're in the right climate. So that's where robotics can actually help people improve the quality of their nutritional intake quite substantially, where you're no longer going to the grocery store for everything. Instead, you're going for a smaller set of staples, and you're eating more fresh food. And as a food scientist, of course, I know that, I think this is common knowledge, that the phytonutrition of foods that you allow to ripen locally on the vine is much, much higher than foods that are picked early and then artificially ripened and sold in a big box store. So I call it shadow food. Mostly what we're eating right now as humans is shadow food. For example, one of the most important longevity chemicals is known as PCC1. It's a procyanidin C1 that's found only in grape seeds. There's been a study out of China that's talking about the life extension properties of this nutrient. Well, what do we see in the grocery stores today? We see seedless grapes. So it's shadow food. They've taken out the seeds, and they've also taken out the red skin of the grapes. They've made it green, seedless grapes. It's like a shadow of what food is supposed to be. So if you grow grapes yourself with the help of your local robots, because again, it's labor intensive, and those robots will be very inexpensive over time in terms of the cost per hour of robot labor, you'll be able to produce high nutrient density, longevity fruit in your own yard for pennies on the dollar compared to what you're paying at the grocery store. And you won't even consider whether it's organic or not because it's organic by nature, that you're not spraying it with toxic synthetic chemical pesticides or herbicides or what have you. So again, the potential for greatly enhancing nutrition is extraordinary, but only among those who understand what this is. There are also going to be a lot of people who are just failing to grasp all of this, and they're going to say, hey, Trump should give me more food stamp money so I can go buy more processed Pop-Tarts. Like, that's my diet. Okay, well, those people won't make it, actually. I'm actually predicting a mass die-off of a large number of current human beings. And again, it's a choice that everybody can make. You can either choose to survive and to augment and to, learn about health and nutrition and healthy foods, or you will become extinct. You know, your family tree will be gone. You know, they'll make sure of that with the jabs and chemicals and everything else. You will not procreate very long if you don't up your game on all of this. That's my message.
Mike, with this quickening and awakening that's happening, one thing about your work and the work that we talk about as well is that it does take energy to start to learn more, to increase your cognition, to be able to take in
Yes.
new and opposing things. It takes a lot of cognitive energy. And in order to have cognitive energy to level up your consciousness, you need to be healthy.
Yes.
That needs to be
That's
the
right.
foundational principle of all of this work, is to make sure that our physical body is being cared for in the most organic way possible.
Well, the simplest way I can explain this is let's start with, we've already established that your consciousness goes beyond your physical brain, but the quality of your physical brain is critical, obviously. Otherwise, you can't interface with, you know, your soul, your consciousness, etc. Your brain runs on what's in your blood, all right? And your blood is made of the things that you eat and absorb. And so a rule of thumb that I've taught for years is if you want to have a better life, you need a higher functioning brain. And if you want a higher functioning brain, you need to eat better. You need to stop the toxins, stop using shampoos and deodorants and personal care products that are loaded with toxic fragrance chemicals. Stop eating all the cheap seed oils. You need to up your game to up your blood quality. You know, your body is making new red blood cells all the time, obviously, and you're urinating the old ones out all the time. So you can change your brain by changing what you eat. When your brain starts to work better, then naturally you're going to function better. You're going to be functionally higher IQ, even if you didn't go back to school, because really, you know, conventional education has nothing to do with IQ. You're going to just function at a higher level. And also, did you know that, for example, the hippocampus region of your brain is no matter what your age, it's always building new brain cells. So when you're building new neurons in your brain, what are they built out of? They're built out of the things that you just ate. Do you want neurons that are built on, you know, Crisco and Pop-Tarts? Yeah, those neurons are going to be retarded. You know, I'm sorry to use the term, but that's just what it is. Or do you want neurons that have healthy fats like avocados and coconut oil and, you know, olive oil and things like that, and flax seeds? You know, you get to decide your neurology, and you can change it dramatically starting with your very next meal. That's all it takes. And again, it's a choice. This is going to be the era of choice with repercussions. It's the ultimate freedom. You can choose to make yourself a genius. You can choose to create. You can choose to be successful. You can choose to be healthier, happier, more knowledgeable. Or you can choose to have a sedentary lifestyle, sitting on a couch, eating Pop-Tarts, watching daytime TV, waiting for the government checks. You know, that is a choice. And all we can do, you know, we can lead the horse to water, right? But we can't make it drink. So, you know, Cory, there's the personal freedom aspect right there. If we respect freedom, then we respect people's freedom to choose poorly also. And many people will do that, unfortunately. But we'll try to help as many as we can to choose wisely.
I just wanted to ask, how would you advise people to navigate your websites? Because there's a lot there. And for someone new into this that really wants to seek this knowledge, where do they start? How do they move through the work that you have out there?
Well, thank you for that question, Leslie. I would say the easiest place to go is brighteon.ai, and there you'll see the new tools that we have. And remember, we're launching our book generator very soon, and that's a tool that everybody will love. And Cory, you'll love the first book that I'm publishing myself out of there. It has a title called Unleash Your Inner Middle Finger, and it's a book about saying no to ridiculous demands from government or corporations or whoever. So I think that's the appropriate book. And the cover image has it's got a person flipping the bird with their middle finger, but it has a happy face on the top of the middle finger. So it's like, this is an appropriate skill set. Anyway, at brighteon.ai, you can explore all our AI tools, and we built them ourselves over the last 2 years with an incredible curation of data that is focused on nutrition, natural health, food decentralization, history, honest finance, gold and silver, Federal Reserve, you know, all kinds of topics like this. So our engine beats ChatGPT, it beats Grok, it beats Gemini, it beats every other AI engine in the world on any reality-based questions in those areas by far. There's no comparison. Everybody that's tried to show that Grok is better, for example, has found Grok sucks, actually, when you ask it about vaccines or pharmaceuticals or whatever. In fact, it's funny because literally 2 hours ago, I was called by the chief science officer of a major nonprofit group that is desperate to have our engine help, let's say, ingest and index their science papers because they've tried it with ChatGPT and it's completely failing and it's hallucinating, giving them bad answers. So we're going to be powering their science efforts to generate their new science papers, by the way. And that's going to keep happening more and more. So anyway, remember, to the audience, you can ask AI anything you want. And if you don't know what to ask it, simply ask it what you can ask it. So let's just go meta level here. If you don't, because I've had this from people like, what can I ask it? Can I ask it this? Can I ask it? Why don't you just ask it what you can ask it? And it will tell you what you can ask it. And then you can ask it. And, it's like, this is the new thinking that people have got to get used to. Stop putting these artificial limitations on yourself. Like, oh, I can't ask it that. Yes, you can. You can ask it anything. You can ask it how to fix your doorbell. Anything you want. There's no limit.
As I told you, Mike, we are the robots that we fear in the future. We ourselves, we've already been programming ourselves for such a long time.
It's time to deprogram our own minds and level up to what's possible for humanity. Because we've all been like sleeping in dumpsters our whole life in what we've been living through, and there's no reason to keep doing that. The future can be very, very bright if we just choose it.
Right. So much potential.
I really appreciate your optimism. I think we need that voice of optimism and seeing the solutions and seeing the possibilities because people are very discouraged. So that's part of our spiritual energizing, I think, and I appreciate your voice in that.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate all of you. Thank you for having me on. It's always an honor to join you, and I'm happy to do another follow-up at another day because, all of us together, we can go for hours on all kinds of things. Yeah.
Thank you so much. And even just connecting AI with health, I think this is a conversation not many people are having in this depth of detail. So thank you so much for sharing that information and for creating these projects, putting your own money into it, your own efforts. I want people to know about healthrangerstore.com. I'm not paid to say this, but I do have a smoothie with me right now, and I have superfoods I've been consuming every day. So if you guys want some heavy metal tested superfoods, highly recommend it. Really top quality based on what I've seen out there. But for everybody who wants news out there, censored.news. And if you insist and say Mike Adams is some pseudoscientific person, he doesn't understand vaccines, go to vaccineforensics.com, go to brighteon.ai. And I think, he, as well as us, we want you to investigate and ask questions and challenge us because we're not afraid. We want freedom. And so we want people to think for themselves.
Amen.
I appreciate it, Mike.
That's right. Thank you. Good to join you all.